Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Motivational speaker, the comeback coach, and goal crusher Joe Rivera brings you inspiring leaders, incredible stories, and valuable lessons on how you can change, grow, and reforge your life. Now, here's your host, Joe Rivera.
What's up? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Reforge Your Life Show. I'm your host, Joe Rivera, and here at the Reforge Your Life Show, we love to show you that the comeback is more than possible. And today, y'all are going to love the guest I'm bringing through. Y'all are going to love her energy, her story. Man, she's the CEO of Creatrix Go Quantum. She was voted one of the top 100 most powerful women in Toronto. Dr. Kim Redmond, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joe. I am so psyched that we get to be here together. Thank you so much for the invitation and also for what you're doing, because I think that's just it. The comeback is where it's at.
Yeah, the comeback is so powerful, and it really takes your life to the next level. And I'm gonna love what the audience has to say about your comeback when they're able to give the feedback. But I love for you to share your story with the audience. I've heard of your story, but I'm not qualified anywhere close to as good as you are to be able to give that story. So I'd love for you to share your story with the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to start at the back end and then flip to the front of the story. I now truly believe and understand, after working with shamans, after working with mystical folks, after working with neuroscience folks, that and I believe as a spiritual woman, that we are here for purpose. We are here to do a thing, whatever the thing is. We are here to hold up the light for others, whatever they're doing. And you're doing that with the Comeback Show. And in order to come back, you have to go through the hero's journey. You have to go through all of these hard things. And these things shape us and they reforge us. And no one likes the forging, but said on purpose, everyone likes the sword to be the sword of light, that Hercules is waving all around at the end of the hero's journeys. So I think, first of all, there's a perspective. And I wanted to say that up front, because it's really important that we're validating how hard it can be and the pain and everything that happened. It's also important to say that nobody was meant to camp out on Victim Island. We want people to get in the boat and go to Solution City. And Solution City has better restaurants and better shopping, and it's more fun. And it's not, there's this thing out there that let me hack my way around the pain. And I'm going to say to you that the gold is when we go through the pain. So let me start. My parents were first generation immigrant children in New York City. I was a loved, planned child. I was the first generational grandchild. You could not have been doted on more than I was. But what I didn't know is there was a history of generational trauma on both sides of the family. And it involved physical abuse. And that physical abuse, it was like a lock and a key. When my mom went back to work, it triggered something in her. My adolescence triggered something in her where now the roles switched. Now she was the oppressor instead of the oppressed. And there was physical violence that built from age 13 to 18 until I actually was strangled to death at my 18th birthday. I flatlined. I went to the light, and I remember watching it all. Like, I remember the moment, Joe, when I just said, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't do it. I've got nothing left. And I was instantly above my body watching what was happening. And there was this amazing light in the corner of the ceiling. So I went to the light And we had a little conversation. And one of the things, and it still gets me emotional all these years later, that I said to, I tell everyone, there was so much love in that light that I remember thinking if I had a body right now, my cells would explode. It was just so intense and so much joy. And they reached out a hand to me, and I looked back and I heard myself say in my head, but then I don't do what I came here to do. And the rest of my head's going, what are you talking about? Like, I'm 18. And there was this beaming joy. And then I was back in my body. And I was pissed off that I was angry that I was back. Because if that was what was on the other side, what was I doing here? And that really was the start of what I would call the major part of the hero's journey for me. What happened from there was homelessness, house hopping, having to steal to eat. I had date rape attempts that happened. And then later on, because I was so unstable, I was hopping in with the wrong people, attempting to get that stability. I wound up with someone who actually did rape me on camera. It didn't stop there. Then I kept breaking my body in ways that science said couldn't be fixed. I broke C2. That's what Superman broke. I spent 9 months relearning how to walk in a wheelchair. And finally, the shamans. And I have to say, at every stage of this, there were angels. There are angels in human form. That's what I'm calling them, who just picked me up and said, we got you. You know, here's the next meal. Here's the next couch. Here's the next thing you could go explore. And all of this while I was taking on loans and putting myself through college. So it was this hellacious, tumultuous, awesome time where I found aspects of myself and learned how to perform and learned how to just find pieces of myself in the middle of this. And ultimately, it was the shamans who said to me, you have to stop breaking your body in a way that science says can't be fixed, just to prove that this is plastic. You have to find a different way to show people how you did what you did. And that really started my search. So I really say for me, it was a search. And the capstone of that search was it changed what I wanted to do with my life. So before all of this happened, because my parents spoke different languages first and English at home, I have this predisposition when I was younger to pick up languages fairly quickly. So my plan was I was going to go to college, learn how to speak a few languages, and go work with the UN as a translator so I could get paid to tour all over the world. That was my plan. And then after this happened, I needed to find out how this could happen to a loved, planned child. And I went into developmental psychology, and what I found was it was a lock and a key. And it began my study and my work with at-risk kids and families that changed my life, giving back hope and belief to others, and then showing them how. And while I'm not, obviously, no one enjoys those moments of the alchemy of being pounded and forged into what we call the sword. On the back end of it, I wouldn't undo any of it because I'm here now. And I'm here now globally in leadership, teaching people how to do the do, not just that it's possible. And for that, there are not enough words of gratitude.
I love that. Gratitude is so important. And I just want to take this time to acknowledge you and say how grateful I am that you didn't give up on yourself and that you kept pushing and that you're able to share your story now and be able to create an impact the way you're doing that.
Thank
Just
you.
want to be clear on that first, because man, thank God you're here. And there's a lot to unpack here,
There is.
you know. So first off, I mean, you know, the strangulation part,
Yeah.
right? And that being the moment that turned you to being homeless, and you know the continuous downturn and spiral that happened after that.
Yeah.
Um, what was going through your mind after that strangulation, and you know that turned you to become homeless and got you going down that road?
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually. There were a bunch of things and none of them were positive at the time, obviously.
Yeah.
I remember during, you know, that incident that was sort of an all day getting beaten on, that at one point I wound up in the kitchen garbage can. And I remember thinking to myself, well, that makes sense because you only put garbage in a garbage can. So that's where my self esteem was at that point, except I had that connection that had happened with the light that said, no, you're here for a purpose. So my self esteem was entirely in the toilet. And I knew I would be safer house hopping or um, just finding my own way than I would ever have been in the situation where I got damaged. And then I needed to learn discernment, and I needed to learn how to trust my intuition, because my intuition always told me ahead of time whether I was in the right place. My head wanted to talk me out of it. And if I listened to my head, I wound up in trouble. And when I listened to my intuition and my heart, I wound up on where I needed to be. And as I went through that period, what I also found that we didn't really talk about is I had the whole bureau full of intuitive gifts, and they all exploded
Mm.
after this time period. And I had no control whatsoever. So for me, it began this period of just going, there has to be a way out of this. There had to be a purpose. And this is before I knew that, you know, we all start in, why is this happening to me? And then we move into, how did this happen for me? What did I learn about myself that I'm taking forward that I never could have learned? That I had courage, that I had tenaciousness, which can also be stubborn. When it's positive, it's tenaciousness. That it was sustainable, that I had the ability to land on my feet, that I had this gift with people. And what I started to find during this same time period is I had the gift of being able to see where someone else was wounded and to go, come on, we'll get through this together. And I don't think any of those gifts would have revealed themselves that way or started to hone themselves that way. Along the way, right in this time period, my body was in chaos. I wound up with cancer that I transmuted working with the shamans and what they did to focus my mind. So, this is the thing that I need everyone to understand. Inside here, it's like apps on your phone, man. Inside here runs outside of us. And so they put me into a program of cliff climbing and rappelling in the Niagara Gorge, 90 feet above the ground.
You
And
know, I just want you, just to be clear for the audience, the people who aren't watching on YouTube and are listening on Spotify, when you're saying what happens here, can you elaborate on that for them?
yeah, absolutely. What happens inside, and I'm pointing to my skull, what happens inside of us is we all get these apps, like the apps on our phone, that we get during these experiences. And those apps run reality. No matter how much we study, no matter how much we struggle, if we don't upgrade those apps, our self-esteem doesn't get upgraded.
Mm.
I'm going to say that again. It's not just about, everyone thinks, growth starts at once we get into discomfort. And that's true. We call it the growth zone. Once we're willing to be uncomfortable, but then we keep growing, but we're still not getting, and I'm putting my hands up high where we want to be in service and the life we want and the lifestyle that we want. And that's because there's another zone that almost nobody talks about. There's an esteem zone that you've got to cross. You don't get what you want. Here's some neuroscience. We don't get what we want. We get who we are. So there's a frequency of options. And when mine were telling me that I was worthless and that I didn't deserve things, that's what I had. And as my esteem grew, and that was a slow, hard process back in the day, as my esteem grew, so did my choices.
Love that.
Your esteem has to grow. And the shamans knew they had to do something to change my head. So I could only focus on what I wanted to happen instead of what I wanted to avoid happening.
And I love that, because the shift of the mindset and how powerful it is when you
It
start
is.
changing your thought pattern. But
Yes.
let's for the audience, there's people out there who are going through maybe a similar challenge or
Yes.
something where they're believing the story that they're telling themselves. Because I believe that the story that we tell ourselves
Yes.
becomes what our life is like. So when you were going through the
Yes.
challenges of telling yourself that you're worthless, that you're not good enough,
Yep.
and all these limited beliefs that were built inside your system from childhood,
Yes.
what was the outcome of the story that you were telling yourself at that time? What were some of the challenges that you were going through?
Well, I hit bottom.
Hmm.
And, I remember, here I am. I'm homeless. Thank God I got into the dorms while I was in college. I'm broke. You name the things, I'm the poster child for them all. And I remember working with one of the shamans. It's a short story. And we were in a cave, and I was on the floor of the cave, sobbing my guts out and just going, why is this so hard? And I rolled over. So now I'm lying on my back looking at the ceiling of the cave.
Hmm.
And he looks at me and he goes, well, at least you're finally looking in the right direction. And I was like, I hate you in this moment. And he went, that's okay. We still love you. So, for me, it became this eternal search on what you just said. How do we switch it faster? How do we switch it without catharsis? And that's what led me into psychology. And then it led me into arts and education and at-risk kids. And then it led me into ultimately hypnosis, neurolinguistic programming, result coaching, where I'm now the master trainer for North America. And we can do, are you ready? Get this, 10 to 12 hours visible on a CAT scan. We can upgrade all your apps and have you rewrite your story so it's in your neurology, not just in your imagination. And when your body and your brain are making different choices, everyone says to me, and I went through the same experience, oh, it's like that was a dream. Like, I get that it happened, but now my brain is focused in another place. So for me, it became the search of, how do we do this faster and permanently and gentler? So I'm now where science meets magic is how I'm known out in the world. And we have, if someone else is going through this, find my email me. There's some downloadable, a cool little ebook, mission manifesto about your hero's journey. And if you fill out the questions, I personally will answer it, not my team. I personally answer those. If you're looking for someone to talk to about any possibility of shifting it because you want someone to work with, email us, look at the website. And if you're looking to learn how, we teach professional designations, Joe, that are valid in 40 countries that are 100% tax deductible. So if you just want someone, you just want a little something, like maybe, some YouTube videos, we've got it. You want to work with someone, we've got a team. You want to learn how. And from my point, I want everyone to rewrite their story because they're the actor, they're the director, they're the props mistress, they're the script writer.
Yes.
And we now know from neuroscience, a little neuroscience, whatever you repeat with emotion, your body believes is real. I'm going to say that again. Whatever you repeat with emotion, your body believes is real.
Yeah. Repetition is the mother of skill.
It is. It is. And so there's still a little bit of a hack for everyone looking for the hack. You can't go around it, but we can take you through it 10 times faster than you could organically get there. And you can see the results on a CAT scan if you wanted to. So it's not woo-woo, it's just newer science.
I love that. That's so important to the audience to pick up on that. And I'm curious though, Kim. So at what point was the turning point for you where you said, you know what? I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I gotta change. I gotta change the story that I'm telling myself and create a new story.
In truth, it was at the bottom of all of that when I got the cancer diagnosis. And I said to myself, like, I could be dead soon. And I was 21 years old. And I said, something's got to change. And the only thing that can change is me. And I started to really embrace the work with some of these alternative teachers and angels that were in my sphere that said, you need to align who you are, that spark. You need to find that spark again. That was the spark that spoke to the light, whoever you believe the light to be. But in my story, when I was getting strangled and I was looking down on my body, for me, it was the fear of dying was greater than the fear of facing my past. So, I mean, that's how stubborn I was. I had to get a death diagnosis potentially. Okay, can we just let that land? So what we say now in coaching is it's called secondary gain. When the pain gets greater than the gain. Like, in order for me to function, I had to attempt to shove that all away and shove it down, except my body wouldn't let it go away, because where are we shoving it into? We're shoving it into our body and our brain. And it was where, like I said, it was the threat of potentially dying at such a young age that went, girl, you are smarter than this. And I have to tell you that it's not about intelligence. It's about willingness, because I have a genius IQ and that didn't help me at all. As a matter of fact, it complicated the situation because I was trying to think my way through. Let me analyze it to death. And all of the shamans were like, no, you have to do different things. This isn't a thinking thing at this point. This is a doing thing. We're going to give you journal exercises. And what they did to physically prove it to me was they hung with lots of gear, lots of safety gear that could hold an elephant up. They, one of my mentors who taught high angle tech rescue. So I put myself on the ambulance. I learned how to be a paramedic. And then they said, all right, we're going cliff climbing. And they put me in Niagara Gorge, 90 feet up, had me rappel down the cliff and teach me cliff climbing. And The very first day, I was about 80 feet up and the ledge I was on collapsed. And after I was done screaming, my crew chief, now I'm sitting in a swing, right? As I said, I'm all geared up. So I'm sitting in essence in a swing. My crew chief comes over and looks up and goes, "Stop yelling. Other people want their turn. By the way, take a look at the view. Very few people get to see that kind of view." And I went, "Oh, you're right." And it was those continual perspective switches that made me believe, yes, I can. Yes, I can. And it just became a lifelong journey. And it still is, to tell you the truth, to find simpler ways, faster ways to get people tools that give them choice, to allow people to rewrite their stories. And, I honor the pain. Like I said, a poster child for pretty much all of it. But at what point do you get fed up with it? At what point for you is enough enough?
Mm.
I know people that are repeating the same story for 50 years.
No matter how painful it is, they keep repeating because they don't know another
Right.
way to change it.
Right. Right. That's where I get to say, everyone hurts, but do you have to choose suffering?
Yeah. And that's the definition of insanity, right? Continuing the same thing over and over, expecting the different result.
Yes.
And I love the fact that you threw out there that it's a lifelong process, because
Right.
transformation is an ongoing process that continues to go, and you continue to grow with it. It never
Right.
stops.
Right. I get to see, oh, wow, look, there's more.
Yeah.
And it's not more in terms of stuff, it's more in terms of peace and joy and having so that you could give. Like, I love Kahil Gibran, the Prophet's definition on money. Let the money you make be your symbol of service.
Yes, I love that.
So you can assist people, you can give them a hand up. I still have my hand up and people my hand down, and this is how we rise together. And I'm going to quote not this pope but the last pope: first you pray for the hungry, then you feed them. And that's how prayer works.
Yes.
So there's a doing component. So I'm going to say to anybody out there that's listening to this, if you don't know what to do, or you've only been doing the same thing over and over and over and over, please reach out. I will answer you. I don't care if there are hundreds and hundreds of emails, I will answer you, because you need to know that it's now a choice. Now, neuroscience says this, high performance psychology now says this, all the learning and behavior models say this now. Now it's just so much simpler than it was 40 years ago.
It's definitely made simpler now, which is more of a reason why you could go out there and get it now, because it's easy.
Right.
So I'm curious, when you were going through these challenges,
Oh,
and you were on your way back to overcoming those challenges, what's something you held on to? I mean, I know you said different perspectives helped you, and I love the way you use different perspectives as one of the ways of coming back. But what's something that you kept holding on to, that you kept believing to be able to know that you're going to be able to make it? Because, man, listen, strangulation, leaving your parents and going out on your own at 18, being homeless, getting raped, and then on top of that, cancer, C2. I mean, all these challenges. I mean, a lot of people would have been like, you know what? It's easier to just give up. But
right.
you didn't give up. You kept going forward. What was it inside of you that helped you push through that?
I believed in magic. I know this sounds so simplistic, perhaps, but in Peter Pan, when Tinkerbell goes down and everyone has to clap in the story, and you have to clap louder and louder to go, I believe, I believe. I think what happened, Joe, is that first incident that happened with the strangulation made belief permanent. I knew I was here for a reason. I didn't know what it was. I knew that there was a way through it. I didn't know what it was. I knew that this wasn't it. And I think for me, and this is something I just want to say to anybody new agey out there, and here's the New York in me,
Bring it out, girl. Bring it out. NYC, let's go.
right? Get angry about it. There's a certain point where I just went, enough. Like, up yours, F you. You don't get to win.
Yes.
And that sort of fighter flame, once that really kicked in, I was like, I'm going to get up again. It may take me 3 days to get up again, but I'm going to get up again and we'll figure it all out. So for me, it wasn't, when I say spirit, or I say, I believe, it wasn't this Zen kind of fluffy, new agey kind of place. It was like, I'm in the battle and I got some peeps around me that are going to help to keep me ultimately safe. Get angry enough to change it. And that anger is an energy. So I want to just say this about emotions. People get all, if I'm a good person, I don't feel my emotions. No, wrong. Wrong biologically, wrong in all the ancient wisdoms. Emotions are signals. That's all they are.
Right.
If you're angry, someone crossed a boundary. If we're in resentment, we betrayed ourselves. On. And for me, I had to learn to honor myself. And that's what happened through the process. And the more I honored myself, the more I got angry about what was going on around me. I stopped being what we call at effect. I came into this place where I said, I am the co-creator and I created this mess. And if I can create the mess, I can create a way out of this. Universe, show me, bring it to me. And now I add, please bring it to me gently and through peace.
I love that.
Please bring it to me gently and through peace. Show me a way out.
Yeah.
So, that use those emotions. It's okay to have rage or shame or any of them and to use them. I mean, that's what Mothers Against Drunk Driving did. That's what America's Most Wanted did to find criminals. You can use any emotion and do super positive things with it. And so I'm going to say to anyone, deep inside, is there a place where you're mad? Is there a place where you're raging? Is there a place where you're angry? You use the anger in a constructive way. And that means really specifically, constructive use means I'm using it to change my life. I'm not lashing out at anybody else because I'm the only one that has the power over me.
And using that emotion as a superpower.
Yes.
Important. And what I also hear you saying is that you also realized that you didn't have to get out of this by yourself, that you had people around you, you had a support group of people who helped elevate you to the level of being able to remove from that toxic energy and that catabolic draining energy and drive you up to that anabolic energy that you have.
Yes.
And I think it's important for the audience to realize that no matter what struggle you're going through, you don't have to go through it alone. And you surround yourself with the right people and you're going to be able to elevate out of that downturn in life.
Right. It'll an upward spiral.
Yeah. Your network is your net worth, not just in dollars, but in direction, destiny. You know what I mean? That's going to help take you to that next level. And something else you also mentioned is the spirituality, right? And it sounds like, for you, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but what I'm hearing you say is how believing something greater than yourself
Yes.
was going to help you unlock your fullest potential, whether you call it
Yes.
God, the universe, the infinite intelligence, but that was vital
Yes.
for your outcome, correct?
Yes. Absolutely. And the studies they did with Auschwitz survivors were the ones that made it through,
Mm.
also had that belief that there was a higher purpose to it. If we can switch our heads to there's a higher purpose and there's something we're here to learn from it, not to keep tolerating being kicked around, but there's something we're here to learn. And I can make a bullet point list of it at every point. When it was the worst, those were the areas where I learned the most about me, where I came home to me. And another thing that you just said on community, I want to tag on to. Both Harvard and Yale have done the studies that say you cannot exceed that place without community. And whether that community is 3 people in a church basement,
Mm.
or a women's group someplace, or an online group, or a mastermind group, you need other people around you in order to keep doing that thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you're going to get more done with more people than you are by yourself, without a
Yeah.
doubt. And
We
I,
are we're not designed biologically to be an island. I don't know where this vicious independence came from. Well, actually, I do know. It's part of survival.
yeah.
I was there. I can do it all. No, you can't. And you're not supposed to. Like, if you think about living by yourself in a cave through the winter, or living with, your clan through the winter in a cave, your odds of survival are much better. We're
Yeah.
supposed to get our dopamine hit from the people that we're hanging out with, not from our phones. Um,
Such a good point.
you know. So
So,
yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
absolutely. So, Kim, I'm a big believer that when we crack through an old belief system and build a new one, which you did, that there's some core values that are
Yes.
uncovered in that process. Those core values help us be able to get through difficult times when they arise. When life shows up and knocks us to our knees, we'll lean into those core values to help us overcome those difficult times and to live by those core values. What are some of the core values that you uncovered through your journey?
Um, Great question, Joe. Great question. And those core values actually, for many of us, turn into core apps that we're running in neuroscience too. So that's a different conversation. And yes, I think the first ones for me are what you said of having that mission focus. Uh, the the second for me is freedom, and whatever freedom means to that person. Um, then the next for me were passion, and your passions will lead you to your purpose. So it was having this appreciation that my wiring isn't wrong. That core value of my wiring was made for me to do what I'm supposed to do. But the other thing that's still, there's still a trigger. One of my triggers is bullies. I see someone being bullied, I step in.
Mm.
So for me, it's about the core value that people have value, that people have gifts, that all people are equal. I don't care what your station in life is, people are people.
Yes.
And it turned into this life place where choose people over things,
Mm.
choose kindness over cruelty. Like, can you be a good person? Could you be a good human being? Could you do whichever you could do within your station? And if that was just giving a dog outside a cup of water. What can you do? And gratitude and the serenity prayer became some of my guiding day-to-day places where those values showed up. And I mean, not only did I have it on my wall then and you asked me when you see me in Arizona, I'll have it in my wallet. I have it on my computer here. And it is that first paragraph of God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that last one was huge for me. I was attempting to battle outside of me instead of look inside
Yes,
of
yes.
me.
Man, that is so important for people to understand. And by the way, I use the Serenity Prayer every day also, so I'm grateful you mentioned this now. But the fact that it's not the outside, it's an inside job. This transformation and changing your life and your comeback story, it all starts from within. It's
Yeah.
an inside job that you have to start from the inside and then you go to the outside. It's all starts on the inside. That's where the work is.
That's where the work is.
Absolutely.
So,
Go ahead.
and there's work. And I think you just hit the nail on the head. Are you willing to do the work?
Yeah, 100%. If you're not willing to do the work, then that means you don't want to change.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Because there's so many people out there. They'll be like, "Yeah, I want to change. I want to make these changes." Okay, so what work are you willing to do? Are you willing to peel back the onion and take stock of who you are? Because that's where it begins. That's where
Yeah.
the magic happens.
Yeah.
So Kim, I'd love for you to share with the audience what you got going on now and where they could find you.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. We're on most social media, and the place that I'd love for everyone to go. I'd love for them to go to our main website. It's www.creatrix, Creatrix, Go Quantum, Creatrix like the Matrix, and put yourself on our newsletter and send me an email, because we have master classes that are going on for the community that are free. We do lunch and learns. We do weekend intros. I am keynoting all over the place. We have a book coming out. And one of the things we do with the newsletter is we say, hey, here's some resources for you. So if you want a whole bunch of comped resources and things that you can access to start that thinking process, please reach out, put yourself on our newsletter.
Awesome. Well, that's going to be in the show notes here. So Kim, a couple of questions that I ask all my guests. The
Yes.
first, when you hear the word purpose, what does that mean to you?
Light. It means believe in the light. And I'm just going off the cuff as you asked me. Purpose. My purpose is to show up and be the light and spread the light, whatever that looks like in whatever moment of my life. And it's looked very different at different stages. My purpose is to show people, here you go, that they are the light. My purpose is to show you that you are the light, and my purpose is to believe in your light so hard that you ultimately believe it.
Love it. And it's so amazing that the light is what you're talking about, purpose, and that was like a turning point for you in your life when you saw that light. That's awesome. And then when you hear the word reforge, what comes to mind?
The hero's journey.
Hmm.
For me, there were two things that really hit for me with that. In the beginning, I was looking for heroes or people I could model or I could use as guidance, and there weren't any. And then Whitney Houston came out with that song. I believe the children are the future, and that song came out. Oprah came out in the beginning. And I realized along the way that I had to take the journey, even if I didn't know where it was going. And ultimately, one of my mentors years later sent me this meme, and I just sat in tears of gratitude. She said she was looking for a hero and couldn't find one. So in spite of herself, she became one.
Love that. Love that.
And that's what, when you say reforge, it means become your own hero and hand that off to others.
Yes. Yes. Hero's journey. That's a good way to talk about reforge, without a doubt. And there's somebody out there right now that's looking to reforge their life. They don't have the whereabouts. They don't have the tools. They don't know where to begin. And what's one piece of advice you could give them? One tool that they could use?
Find someone in your community, either geographically in your community or virtually. It could be a grandmother. It could be a friend's aunt. It could be a group. Find someone who you admire and then begin to play the game in your head. And it sounds like this. I did it for years. When I was stuck, I would say, well, what would Oprah do here? Now, I don't know Oprah, so I know I'm playing a game in my head. And the point of the technique is, if I came out with a different answer when I say, what would Oprah do? As opposed to what I was going to do, I would do what my inner Oprah was going to do instead. So if I was going to go right and my inner Oprah said turn left, I turned left. It gets you out of your own, rut of running the same story.
I love that. The inner Oprah.
My inner Oprah. One day, Joe, I want to meet this woman in person so I can thank her.
Yes, you have to. You got to make sure you thank her and tell her, man, you have no idea how you became my intuition for a little while. You played a huge part of that.
She did. She really did.
It's good. Kim, what's one thing that the audience doesn't know about you that you enjoy doing for fun?
I'm a little bit of an earth mama. I like landscaping and gardening. And so I'm a tech geek. I like to play around with technology and quantum physics. But really, here's one. I love to crochet.
Well, okay, crochet. That's different.
A little making blanket in the winter.
Yeah.
Those sort of cozy, homey kind of things. Tell me I'm living a life that has some peace in it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Man, what the girl from New York turned out to be. I love it.
Oh, who knew?
Kim, thank you so much for coming through. I really appreciate it. I knew you were going to bring the knowledge, the energy, and you brought that and more. And I'm just grateful that you were able to share this platform with me.
Thank you so much, Joe. Truly appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you so much. And for all the listeners and viewers out there, don't forget, I'm going to ask you the same thing. LFSS. Like, follow, subscribe, and most importantly, share the episode. Because there's somebody out there right now that's not watching, that's not listening. They don't have the tools, they don't have the whereabouts to be able to reforge their life. And you sharing this episode or past episodes to help save their life, save their business, save their marriage, just save them and help them reforge. So again, don't forget to share, y'all. Thank y'all for coming through. Stay productive, stay purposeful, and stay blessed.
You've been listening to Reforge Your Life with your host, Joe Rivera. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. To learn more about Joe Rivera and how he can help you or your organization reforge your life and regain your place at the top, head on over to withjoerivera.com and follow Joe on all social platforms. The Reforge Your Life podcast was produced by Thrive Loud Productions. Thanks for listening.